sa Office of the President na darating dito na sabi nga nila, what's good for the goose, tama ba yun? Is good for the gander. Or hamon po natin sa Office of the President na kung pinapagpaliwanag natin ang Vice President sa paggamit niya ng confidential fund, lalong kailangan ng Pangulong magpaliwanag dahil di hamak na mas malaki ang confidential and intelligence fund ng Office of the President. Maraming salamat po, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Representative Tino. We'll move to our next interpellator from the majority, Representative Arnan Palonigan. Since Representative Palonigan is not here, Deputy Majority Leader Bong Teves. Next, Representative Rolando Valeriano.
Thank you,
You have
Madam
the
Chair.
floor, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I'm here. Para po sa DBM Secretary, Madam, binibigyan po ba kayo ng copy ng House of Representative Appropriation Bill?
Gab po?
Apo.
Yes po, yung printed copy po, General Appropriations Bill.
So nakikita niyo po yung balance between the House and the final version?
Yes po, pero kailangan pong isa-isahin. Manually po, Madam Chair.
So, Madam Chair, baka pwede mo kami i-furnish ng copy ng final, yung variance between the House and the final version.
Madam Chair, makikita po namin pero hindi po namin nakukompute na ito dahil at the end of the day, what we want to see, Madam Chair, is the final version of the enrolled bill, Madam Chair.
Sige po. So, sa final version po, meron pa bang FLR?
Meron pa po, Madam Chair.
I understand, Madam Secretary, from the Senate and the Executive, tama po ba wala ng FLR? Except for the Congress?
Pa po ang FLR natin, kasama po dyan ang executive.
So, can you tell us why po meron pang for later release? What is the reasons?
Sa veto message ng ating Pangulo, na lahat po ng nabago mula sa National Expenditure Program, lahat po ay magiging for later release po or for issuance of SARO. So bago po ito mai-release, kailangan po ito pag-aralan ng mga departments and agencies bago po nila i-request. Kasi kailangan po i-validate itong mga proyekto o programa nito kung ito po ba ay readily implementable at kung naaayon po dun sa priorities ng departments and agencies po, Madam Chair.
So, siguro po, Madam Chair, in the next appropriation hearing, baka pwede nyo kaming ma-furnish ng copy ng all FLR para sa 2025.
We will provide, Madam Chair po. We have a copy po, we provide.
Yeah, thank you po. Sa Secretary of Finance naman po natin, kay Secretary, how is the performance of your two collection agencies, namely the Bureau of Customs and the BIR?
The Bureau of Internal Revenue is doing a spectacular job. They are growing roughly by about 13% this year, more or less. Bureau of Customs, medyo flat. May konting growth nung pumasok yung ating bagong commissioner, kaya maraming salamat sa kanyang trabaho sa Bureau of Customs. Yes.
So, why, Mr. Secretary, what happened to the past months in regard to the Bureau of Customs?
Nagkaroon tayo ng pagbabago sa commissioner, siguro dahil hindi nakamit yung target under the BESF.
Okay. How about the suppression of smuggling with the Bureau of Customs? Di ba dalawa po yan, interconnected yan, collection of taxes plus the suppression of smuggling.
Correct.
How do they perform with suppression of smuggling?
Sa ngayon, ang alam ko, ginagawa ng ating bagong commissioner lahat ng dapat magawa insofar as smuggling is concerned at trade facilitation kung kaya gumaganda ang koleksyon ng Bureau of Customs.
So, we expect that in the future, mamimit lagi ng Bureau of Customs with the new commissioner.
That is right.
That's all. Thank you po.
Thank
That's
you,
all,
Madam
Madam
Salamat.
Secretary.
Thank you.
That's all, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Representative Valeriano. We will now move back to the minority. From the side of the minority, Representative Sharjokno, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My questions are addressed primarily to the DBCC Chair, although the other members of the DBCC may chime in as well. First, for many years, the Philippines has always been ahead in terms of the GDP per capita insofar as Vietnam is concerned. But in 2024, Vietnam surpassed us, and now they're a little bit higher than we are. Alam naman po natin na lahat ng mga bansa ay dumaan sa pandemya. We all had to go through global inflation as well. Why is it na, kumbaga, na unahan na tayo ng Vietnam? And is this any indication that we have kind of like not been able to manage our economic programs well?
Yeah, let me first take a crack on that, Madam Chair. First, Vietnam, over the last decade, has been growing faster than the Philippines. Second, during the pandemic, 2020 pandemic, our economy contracted by almost 10%, whereas Vietnam contracted only a little. That particular year separated us from Vietnam. Before the pandemic, we were almost on the same line, the same trajectory. But that pandemic year made a lot of difference. We lost 3 years, essentially, of growth as a result of the pandemic.
Are you saying, sir, that it's not a factor in terms of whether napapatupad natin yung mga programa natin compared to how Vietnam is doing it?
We're actually doing well, trailing well, as I said, Madam Chair. Before the pandemic, we were quite trudging along almost the same growth path as Vietnam. But the scarring of the pandemic, left by the pandemic and the Philippine economy, was deeper than that experienced by Vietnam, whether that's in the health or education, learning, for example. But even for small and medium enterprises, they were hit very hard by the pandemic. Our small and medium enterprises, many closed shop and they were not able to recover. That made a lot of difference.
I noticed,
Okay, maybe
yes, sir.
Maybe in addition, the Philippines is an archipelago. Vietnam is landlocked with China. So when China grew, they used Vietnam as a transshipment point to export to the United States. And that's why Vietnamese export is roughly $400 billion. I think that is one very important factor, that they are part of the supply chain in Asia.
Thank you, Secretary. I've noticed that since 2023, the DBCC has been downgrading its fiscal and growth targets. Although, pag nag-downgrade nyo naman, nami-meet nyo yung mga targets, my question is, bakit taon-taon binababa natin itong fiscal and growth targets? Samantalang kung binababa yun, hindi ba yun nagpapakita na hindi talaga natin naihahatid ang ating mga pangako sa sambayan ng Pilipino?
Well, again, let me take a crack, Madam Chair. When we formulated our medium-term plan and the fiscal framework in 2022, the conditions then, the global conditions, were very different. There was no Ukraine-Russia war, there was no major global supply disruptions, there was no Trump tariffs and everything. That's the global sentiments, the global uncertainty in the trade since then deteriorated, and we needed to recalibrate our assumptions, our growth assumptions, and our our target to reflect those realities that not only the Philippine economy, Madam Chair, that was experiencing this, every economy was reducing their growth rate in the last 2-3 years because of this global uncertainty. But in fact, despite, as I presented this morning, despite the fact that we also downgraded and we realized lower growth rates, we remained among the fastest emerging economies, not only in Asia, but in the whole world. And that's recognized by all the multilateral observers, development observers like IMF, World Bank, and ADB, Madam Chair.
Thank you for that. Based on the BASF tables, the proposed 2026 budget allocates just around 3.5% of the GDP for education versus the 46% recommended by UNESCO, about 2.2% for social protection versus the 5.1% recommended by the ILO, and 1% for health against the 5% recommended by the World Health Organization. Bakit po parang paulit-ulit na ang pamuhunan ng gobyerno natin para sa tao ay kulang? Kulang tayo sa edukasyon, kulang tayo sa kalusugan, kulang tayo sa social protection kumpara sa pamantayan ng ibang mga bansa.
Madam Chair, pag nakakatanggap po tayo ng ating budget, ulitin ko po, meron lang po tayong level sa ating medium-term fiscal framework together with the DBCC. Pinag-uusapan po natin kung ano lang po ang tamang level ng ating budget. Alinsunod po dyan is that nagpo-propose po ang mga ahensya. Ulitin ko po, ang total na na-receive po natin ay 10.1 trillion pesos. Hindi po natin kaya pondohan lahat po itong mga standards na binibigay ng mga international at development partners. I think if we will add 5%, 4%, 3%, 2%, and 1% altogether, so sobra na po sa budget level po natin. Kasi kailangan po natin i-prioritize din po yung mga programa na kailangan po natin pondohan. At yan po ay nakapaloob sa Philippine Development Plan at saka sa mga roadmaps ng ating mga departamento. Sa susunod na taon po, ang mga prioridad po natin, unang-una po ay education. Sinubukan po natin na at least kahit pa paano po matugunan yung 4% na kinakailangan para po sa ating basic education at tertiary education. Almost po, sinubukan po natin. Tinaasan din po natin ang sa health sector at tinaasan po din natin ang sa agriculture sector at sinubukan din po natin dagdagan yung para sa social protection. And at the same time po, sa ating, again, Philippine Development Plan at yung ating medium-term fiscal framework, meron po din tayong sinusundan na plano na ang infrastructure spending po sana natin ay nasa 5 to 6% of the GDP po.
On the other hand, the NEP contains an allocation for 270 billion for flood control projects, despite the statements made by the President that a lot of these projects are essentially pork barrel. What accounts for this seeming disparity?
274 billion po was provided for by the Department of Public Works and Highways based on their priority and the formula that they actually formulated in when they prepared their budget proposal to the DBM.
Just one or two more questions, Madam Chair. I understand, Secretary Ralph, that there are several cases in the court, in the Supreme Court, questioning the PhilHealth as well as the PDIC funds. Now, my question is, what will happen if the court requires na ibalik yung mga pondong yon? Does the government have a plan to address this?
Well, if